So let's go ahead and get ready for the game.
All right. Guys, keep in mind this is the WCS version of Tal'Darim. So WCS has their own set map pool, including other really cool maps like Daybreak, Antigua, really standard maps.
Yeah.
But they also have Tal'Darim Alter. And looks like we're getting ready to go into this first game, best of 3 between Ostojiy versus Scarlett.
Tal'Darim is one of those maps that are a little bit weird just because you have no main to natural ramp. I know we're a little bit of pause right here.
Okay. So one of the players did indeed pause. They just want to get everything set out. But again, ZvZ on Tal'Darim Alter is just extremely volatile. It's really hard because that lack of ramp makes it really hard for queens to block it if you want to do anything safe. That's why oftentimes you see something pretty aggressive, especially with Ling Bane. But again, that queen chains offers a different perspective because you can use your range of the queen to pick things off. And then from there, it's kind of really coin flippy. A lot of people kind of argue, yeah, like it's tough for ZerG to scout. The map is really huge, so even if you get an Overlord in, it's not going to see anything.
Yeah, and you know
we've kind of hard.
We've kind of had a metagame shift away from ZerGling Baneling because of that queen change, because they have 5 range.
Yeah.
The queen draw list has been able to defend every single ZerGling Baneling, even all-ins, pretty effectively, just because they're independent of Larva, and they deal a lot of damage.
That's huge. That's a great point.
Yeah.
Queens not being forced to use a Larva to make a queen is so huge in terms of the early dynamics because you can squeeze out that extra defense. And you see ZerGs just even go slowly and save their gas and spine up, and all of a sudden they're unbreakable for early stages. We'll see how both of those play out. But Andre, let's introduce our players.
Yep. In the bottom right-hand position as the orange ZerG, we have Gosu Ostojiy. This is Ostojiy from Team It's Gosu, my team. And he's starting up with a 15 pull and then getting a delayed gas.
Scarlett is the top right purple ZerG. Scarlett from Team Acer joins the ranks of players like NMrUUG and Bly and all these cool things. Oh, wait, whoa, look at what Scarlett's doing.
Very interesting.
So cool. This is actually really interesting. Placing a hatchery to kind of block anything, just forms a choke, or does that? I've never seen this. Does this block the entire path? I don't think so.
No, it doesn't block the entire path, but that's why it's so powerful.
Have you seen this before, Andre?
It's because you want to be able to defend against ZerGling Baneling all-ins. And that way you can actually make this kind of big choke a ramp, right? So it's only one queen big. You can obviously block it off, and then you can defend pretty accurately. So I like what we're seeing, but Ostojiy is easily just taking his own expansion. Now, what that means is Scarlett has the ability to always pressure Ostojiy, but Ostojiy doesn't have the ability to pressure Scarlett because of this block, because there exists that problem. But don't forget, Scarlett, I mean, she has the ability to still mine gas pretty efficiently. That gas is right next to the hatchery. So she has the capabilities of droning up in this early game stage and then exploding with a ton of ZerGling Baneling and possibly switching over to something like Roaches with still maintaining a pretty good gas count to maintain that constant pressure.
Ostojiy has continued to mine gas to the point where he actually has 100 excess, and he dropped 50 of it on a Baneling nest. So Ostojiy, he can't really get a good scouting as well. That's actually kind of what's cool about doing this whole thing. Ostojiy knows that the queen will zone off anything, so it's not worth sacking at this point. And just like that, Scarlett denied lots of information. While she got everything she needed, she scouted an expansion at a regular time.
Now, this is really weird for Scarlett. I think this is actually incorrect. She's going ahead and putting down a 3rd hatchery. This 3rd hatchery showcases to her opponent that she will never be in a position where she can attack.
Yeah, she can't put on any aggression.
There's just too much damage, or excuse me, there's just too much investment going into macro, going into, obviously, this hatchery, the 2 hatcheries, that you can never get a big enough army, or you can never really mount any tech. And that's going to be a big problem going into this later game stage, where Ostojiy is obviously already situated his expansion, and he's going to be able to do basically whatever he wants to.
Yeah, you see 2 Baneys trying to rush in, but they explode on the queen, grabbing a couple of ZerGlings, but man, that's not really going to do too much, and Scarlett is completely safe with that queen out.
Yeah, she's safe, but the problem is she lost a couple of ZerGlings there and a ton of, well, just a single queen. That single queen actually ridiculously ridiculously hurts her. 25 harvesters, 25. But we have the double inject and the hatchery on the right area. I think Ostojiy is looking really, really fine going into this game number 1.
Yeah, this is really interesting. The Banelings are trying to run and trying to hover around that spine collar in case they want to protect it, and the spine collar does end up dropping, and Ostojiy even saves a Baneling, so Scarlett still can't even protect her zone that liberally. You can see Scarlett does end up pumping out a couple more drones, but for the most part has finally stabilized. Ostojiy, after all this, has that drone advantage. But that extra hatchery does come into play. And man, I'm just so taken aback about how well Scarlett's been able to use this to kind of defend. But now she scouts a huge horde of Banelings that are in the process of morphing, so Scarlett knows what's coming next.
Yeah, she needs to be careful because she doesn't know the Baneling timing, so there can easily be one Baneling popping. All of a sudden, all of her Zerglings are dead. 3 Banelings are going to come up here, trying to look for some damage. Oh. Probably going to trade. Very nicely done. By
Ostojiy
Scarlett.
tried to trade 2 Banelings to try to destroy the rest of them, but Scarlett managed to finish them. And the big thing is that he didn't capitalize by killing those eggs. He let them finish, so he traded a Baneling for literally nothing. At this point, you can see Ostojiy. Ooh, good split.
Ostojiy, no.
Oh, that hurts so bad, Andre.
Wow, losing so many Zerglings. You have to look at the larva at that point. Income tab is showing 37 to 34. But Scarlett's larva is a lot more expendable. Ostojiy's is not. He's only on 2 hatcheries still. So I have to feel like that's a big advantage for Scarlett, seeing as she's situated her expansion and she's now able to start materializing. She's going to mount a pretty big assault. I think Ostojiy needed to do a lot more damage from that attack or get some advantage in tech or something. But now that, you know, Scarlett is on the warpath, I think she's looking really good to take, not to take game number 1, but at least get an advantage.
Yeah, now that the scariest part of that early game has subsided, where she wasn't able to, you know, get enough larva out. But now that she has a huge amount of units and a larva available to her, she has a lot of initiative. You know, she can just sit back and macro. She can kind of threaten and poke her opponent, and that's exactly what Scarlett's doing. Yeah, she's down in supply, but there's because army is pretty much what Ostojiy has at this point. He's also trying to sneak out a few roaches. He does have some in his army composition, but for the most part still staying on just a huge army count.
Yeah, and he's looking to just crushing blows right here. He needs this to work. Unfortunately for him, he hasn't gotten any +1 or anything, so the Zerglings are quite powerful, but Zergling Baneling obviously, excuse me, Roach Baneling is obviously really powerful. Oh my gosh!
Another fantastic trade for Scarlett, and you can see that Ostojiy has nothing really to keep those Roaches safe from the Zerglings. The Zerglings can surround it, but Scarlett didn't want to wander too far off the path. Saw those reinforcing Roaches. Ostojiy, 2 bad trades of Banelings thus far. It just hurts.
I think Ostojiy continuing this attack is ill-fated. I don't think he can actually do anything. There's just too many spine crawlers. Yeah. And the fact he doesn't have +1 attack really gives power to those Zerglings. Zerglings obviously don't get don't get 2-shotted by those Roaches. It lets them, you know, start dishing out a lot more damage for a lot longer. So Ostojiy is still going to try to keep going on with this. You can see the supply counts are similar. Ostojiy is slightly ahead, but that's very misleading, since Ostojiy, you know, he has Roaches out and his opponent doesn't. Roaches are a big supply tank.
Oh, there's a lot of Banelings also for Scarlett. She just has to disable the Zerglings, and then the spines just really prevent Roaches from ever pushing in. You need that kind of surrounding DPS. Scarlett trying to send a lot of units, a lot of Banelings explode, but in the end, only Zerglings survive from Scarlett, and she is trying to pick off the rest of these remaining weak Roaches, and Scarlett holds Ostojiy's supply that was artificially inflated because of those army units. Now evens out, but that gives Scarlett a really nice advantage because she's been able to mine gas that much longer.
Look at this. Infestation Pit is finished. Double Evos are down and upgrading. She is just so far ahead. Actually, there is double Evos for Ostojiy, excuse me, but as we can see, +1 attack is already finished. +1 Carapace is on the way. It's almost finished as well. So Ostojiy is behind. It is slight, but he is behind. As we can see, he has evened things out with that macro hatchery.
The big thing, though, Andre, is that, yeah, he has double Evo, and yeah, he's double upgrading. He's got units on the way. The big thing is, though, Scarlett's been much more conservative with her gas. She's been able to save everything for, you know, infestors, just sprinkling Banelings here and there, getting really critical upgrades, and this fast hive from Scarlett as well. She's able to afford all of that and still maintain a pretty healthy gas count. for those infestors. So that's going to be a big story as well. Ostojiy's trying to eventually gravitate towards roaches and then trying to probably incorporate infestors later on. But for now, Scarlett changing it up, doing more of that really quick Zergling infestor style and having a lot of minerals, spending your larva and expanding really quickly.
You know, it's misleading how, you know, how effective roaches are. You always think, oh, roaches, you know, they're only 2 supply, et cetera, et cetera. But the fact of the matter is getting Zerglings really allows you to do a lot of aggression if you're able to hold in the beginning stage. Wow, Scarlett getting into a little bit of pickle there. But what I was saying is, you know, Zerglings are a lot better at actually producing. Like, you're able to do a lot more things if you only get Zerglings and rely on that. The biggest problem in the beginning stage is that they're so ineffective against banelings, against roaches, things like that. But if you're able to stabilize, it's a much better route, seeing as it's a lot less supply to deal with, so you don't have to get so many overlords so many times. And additionally, you can save up all that gas, as you were saying, for the infestation tech, and just explode off of mid-game tech. It's really, really important that people know that in ZvZ.
This is really good high timing from Scar as well, because she knows that Ostojiy's committed to roaches. There's a Nidus Worm. Oh my goodness, from Ostojiy. Turning on the Infestation Pit. A very nice choice to kind of cripple her tech. Oh, but he leaves it alive for just a little bit, and Ostojiy will have to engage with the rest of it. But now, Scar has sniped the Nidus Worm, and these roaches are trapped.
Very well played by Ostojiy, just circumventing all the spine crawlers. This is a very difficult position for Scarlett to be in. In the meantime, the third base is under attack, but there are a ton of spine crawlers to defend everything over there. Baneling's trying to waddle into the mineral line, but that's not going to happen. Another Nidus Worm going down, and the spawning pool gets taken out. Oh my goodness, Scarlett, in the blink of an eye, might lose this game just because she did not see this Nidus Worm going down.
You're absolutely right. That Nidus Worm changes everything. Scarlett, if she just defended traditionally at the front, she would have been okay, but now she has to defend in the main, and Scarlett's losing a significant portion of her economy now. Also, this hive is essentially useless in terms of larvae. Anything that spawns instantly dies. Now Ostojiy sniping tech, working on the Ultralisk Cavern as well. Only one is put in production. Oh, Scarlett wants to use that choke, but she doesn't have the energy to really fungal. Has to kind of back off and let the spines do work. Ostojiy does have +1/+1, but Scarlett's about to finish her +2 carapace, but it won't even matter. Scarlett's supply is so poor right now. GG.
Ostojiy makes the miracle comeback right there. There was so little amount of actions that he could have done to win that game.
It was really tough position, because if you try to go to the front, Scarlett has a tech advantage, she has an upgrade advantage, she gets fungals, keeps those roaches in place, and Ultralisk just kill everything.
Exactly.
It was going to be a one-sided fight.
It shows you just the power of positioning in space and how to control that. Ostojiy really showing his power there.
That was really cool.
I would say that, I mean, that's a misstep from Scarlett. Clearly, Scarlett should have seen that. But, you know, Ostojiy at least giving him the options to come back into that game, saying, okay, I have these set of moves that will actually either get me back in the game or win the game, right? And he did all of them. He executed as many of them as possible. Scarlett let one slip by, and that was the entire game.
So game number 1 goes to Ostojiy. Man, I was like, so we were talking up Scarlett that much because her position was good, but a great tactical swing around. That was very similar to how Violet loves to play ZvZ, just very like on the moment, opening, take it, swing things, even if you feel like he's down, even if Ostojiy's behind in drones, behind in expansion time, behind in tech, upgrades, finds a way to really make it work.
Yep.
Takes game number 1, we'll find out what happens game number 2.
Just going to find out everything right now, what her map choice is going to be. Let me go ahead and just check. All right, let me